teaching women and holding a space where it is okay to be authentic and show up as the real you. That's just one of the many benefits of authentic leadership. I'm LizJSimpson, founder of the Big Money Movement, and in today's video, we're going to talk about what are the benefits of authentic leadership. One of the things that lights me up is that there's so much conversation nowadays about the idea of authentic leadership. When I think of just my beginnings in corporate America and beginning to work, I don't know that I heard so much conversation about authenticity and leadership in the workplace and spoken in a way that they go hand in hand. So I want to talk about why there's, various benefits to authentic leadership. The first thing that comes to mind is consistency, right? So if you're not showing up authentic as a leader, if you're putting on this charade or, this mask, at some point, people are going to see the lines and the holes within this facade. And so I think that when you're showing up as who you truly are, it creates the space for you to be consistent. And consistency is what elicits trust from other people. When I think about myself now as the leader of our firm, I, for a while, thought that leadership was homogenous. I thought it looked a certain way, it talked a certain way, it walked a certain way. And it's one of the key reasons why I actually was not inspired to be a leader. I actually was like, I want to run as far away from that as possible. I want to be a solopreneur. I just want to be responsible for myself and leave it there. But the more that I thought about the idea of authentic leadership, that is what compelled me to say, okay, that's something that I can do well. If I can take up space, own my power, of course, evolve and grow as a human being, then that's an area where I can be true to myself and I can show up day in and day out as my true self and create impact and change. The second reason why I think authentic leadership is important is that when we reward and put authenticity above all else, I think it creates a safe space in the work environment. We are constantly expanding our team at the Big Money Movement. And recently we just hired 2 new full-time members. And during the final interview for one of those individuals, Kelly Wasson, our director of operations, and myself were really just moved to tears because this woman had decades of experience in corporate America and she was looking for a new role. And as we asked her questions and really peeled the onion for why she was looking for a new role and a new organization to work with and what she wanted to get out of her new role, she really started to share about just the harmful experiences that she had in other roles and how she felt like she was a number and how she felt like she wasn't honored or seen, heard, or understood. And all she really wanted was to go to a space where people would honor her for her and value the contributions that she could bring, and so that she could bring her full self, right? Instead of just this one-sided person just checking a box and doing a task, she wanted to be a part of something bigger than herself, where her voice could be heard and her contributions, her many contributions, could be valued. And so Kelly and I were just moved to tears because we thought, gosh, is that how low the bar is set? That people are just looking for a safe space? And so I think one of the calls for leaders is to do no harm, right? So making sure that as you're leading your team, that you're not doing harm to them. And there's a friend of mine, Jackie Salim, who's an agency owner, and she said this phrase once when she was speaking at an event, and it has stuck with me since then. She talked about how she believed the responsibility of a leader, and her being at the helm of her agency, was to essentially suck all of the toxins out of the workplace. So she said, my role is, as the visionary, as the leader, is to make sure that I have an accurate depiction of the workplace. And at any point, if there's any behaviors or decisions or activities that are doing harm or creating toxicity or poisoning our employees or our morale, she felt like her responsibility was to suck out that toxin and to make sure that that is not something that breeds and thrives in the workplace. And so when we talk about authentic leadership, authenticity takes off this facade, this posture of I know everything and everything I say is right and everything I say is final. And it creates this space for transparency and compassion and empathy. And I also think that gives further rope for people to have forgiveness and give leaders grace. Also, when I think about authentic leadership, and one of its many benefits, I believe, is true relationships and true understanding of your team members, right? Speaking of our team, because we have employees on our team who are not used to spaces where they feel like they were necessarily celebrated for their full selves, or that they could, talk about who they are as a person. It's interesting because, for some people, when they first join our team, we see that they're kind of like still doing this like charade, and we actually would call them out. One of the things that we've adopted as an organization is radical candor. And I think the author is Kim Scott. If you haven't read that book, it's amazing. And in the book, Radical Candor, it's really about like talking, being direct, giving direct feedback, being direct in your communication style. And when we show up as authentic leaders, it creates the space for honest, real communication, right? What's going on with this person? How do I honor their personality? How do I honor their desired communication style? In our hiring process, one of the things that we ask in the final interview is like, what's your love language, right? How do you want to be praised and recognized in your role? If someone has feedback to give you, how do you like to receive feedback? How do you like to deliver feedback, right? And so it's honoring that if we have a diverse team, which regardless of what your team looks like, it's diverse simply because every human being has different personalities or communication styles. So if I know I have a diverse team, it's important for me to take time to understand what are their unique maps of the world, what are their preferred communication styles, and how can we be flexible and nimble in our communication so that each person's voice is honored and we create that culture of feedback. I think those are just some of the key benefits of authentic leadership. What was interesting to me about that book is, I believe it's Microsoft, it might be Microsoft and Google or Apple. They were the key companies that she worked for, and they were the use cases, if you will, for the idea of radical candor. And what was interesting was she talked about, because of this environment of radical candor and feedback, that really was what fertilized and created this healthy ground for innovation, right? Because now we're hearing all of these different voices. We're giving space for each voice regardless of title, right? And making sure that each voice is heard. And through those voices, it's a way to poke holes or to hear new ideas. And that really was the precipice for just the advancements that these corporations have created in the marketplace. And so when I think about authentic leadership, when you give individuals the space to show up, right? It creates creativity, new ideas. It also creates healthy tension, right? And I don't think healthy tension is necessarily a bad thing. It's the tension of, let's debate. Let's not argue to prove who's right and who's wrong, but let me hear your viewpoint. And maybe I don't agree, so give me space to share my viewpoint. And then we can meet in the middle and say, how can we honor these voices and these different perspectives, and how do we find the best idea from that? Case in point, it makes me think about, we as a team were brainstorming some ideas for curriculum, and we're sitting down at this table and we're talking about what we believed our clients needed. And we each had distinct viewpoints. And it was really interesting because one of the things that just gave me a source of pride was that we were having this discussion, and one person at the table would voice their viewpoint. And I would hear a team member say, well, I disagree. I see it this way. And what was really magical to me is that somebody felt safe in order to be candid and say, I disagree. And then I watched the rest of us at the table. No one was offended by that disagreement because they knew that disagreement wasn't demeaning, belittling, or punitive. And so then we all still held this posture, this psychologically safe space of, okay, tell me more about why you disagree. This individual then had the space to share why they disagreed. We all simmered on it, and then we thought of, okay, I hear your viewpoint. How can we merge this? And then from that, like as a leader, as I sit down and I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, the ideas that came from our disagreement were so much more powerful and so much more compelling than what I would have come up with on my own. And then what I also think is special about that is that when you have a relationship with someone and you know that they can be honest and they're being their true selves, and if you feel like if they have any conflicting emotions or thoughts, that they would voice those to you, you feel safer in that relationship, right? And I also think it creates greater intimacy. I'm one of those people, I'm like, with my husband, right, with my spouse, there are times when we disagree and I feel closer because of the disagreement, because I feel like, wow, in that disagreement, we were able to voice things that maybe we didn't voice in other environments. And if we can disagree and still love each other, that only affirms for me that this is a safe space. And I think when you show up and create this culture of authentic leadership, you can have discourse and disagreement amongst the team, and that discourse and disagreement doesn't mean that I'm out of a job. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be demoted. It actually means we value that and your voice, because you are what make our organization better. I want to hear from you. What are your views on authentic leadership? Stay with me though, because let's talk about how to be a great leader. Click this next video where we explore that together. I'll see you there. Bye.